name's Ken Kraft. I'm the founder and CEO at Hope of the Valley Rescue Mission. And one of the things we really want to do is to keep a spotlight on the humanitarian crisis of homelessness here in Los Angeles. And one of the ways that we're doing that is by bringing in people of influence and people that are true leaders here in the city of Los Angeles. And today we have Deputy Mayor of the city of Los Angeles, Ramirez. And we are so happy to have you here. And we know that you're out and about every day. And you know this subject very well, and that the mayor's office is very involved in dealing with homelessness today. And so we're so thankful that you've come to join us.
And we know what a big deal you are. We just don't know what a deputy mayor is. What's your role in the city, and how does it work with homelessness?
Yeah, well, first I want to say it's an honor to be here to have a conversation with you. I feel like I should be interviewing you all for all the amazing work that Hope of the Valley has done and really led and kind of stepped up at the speed of need over these last couple of years. But really appreciate, happy to be here and sharing the conversation. As Deputy Mayor, I am the Deputy Mayor of the Mayor's Office of City Homelessness Initiatives, known as MOCHI, a fun acronym. Basically the Mayor's Senior Advisor on Homelessness Policy. Work closely with the Housing Authority, have some oversight with the Housing Department and LASA. And MOCHI basically has 4 key policy areas that we work on and oversee. So we focus on interim housing, permanent supportive housing and housing solutions, street strategies, and skid row strategies. Mm-hmm. Now, I do not do it alone. I have an amazing team of diverse and talented change makers that I've been able to assemble to meet this moment. And that's really critical to this work, because one person alone cannot do it. But this is the first kind of full team ever assembled in any administration to focus on homelessness and housing. And in the past it was like one person. A lot of credit to my predecessor, Christina Miller, who kind of kick-started this process of building a team. When I got here, there was maybe about 7 or 8 people. Been able to triple the size of the team to meet the moment, and really the mayor's vision to bring people that are representative from diverse backgrounds, who also are representative of the communities we serve, to make these decisions, right? And so that was critical. I mean, when I got here, I was the only Latino on the team. Mm-hmm. Now we have 40% Latinos representing on our team in this work. We have more LGBTQ representation, more women, folks from planning, housing, and legal worlds, and the provider world. Even folks on the team with lived experience, and that's critical. And so I wish they could all be here today, because they also have an amazing journey of personal and professional stories of how they came to be and their focus on this work. But each and every day just continue to focus on some amazing initiatives, making tremendous progress in this moment, and hope to continue to institutionalize a lot of this work moving forward for the next administration to build office.
And give us some highlights. Oftentimes when you read the headlines and you read about homelessness in Los Angeles, oftentimes it's very negative about what's not happening. Can you give us some good news of what is happening here in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I mean, just a tremendous pace across the board in a good way. I mean, obviously, been a challenging moment over the last couple of years with this global pandemic. Having to pivot in a way to really respond to the needs, and I think some of the silver lining of that is we also saw some tremendous investment from our federal and state partners. This FEMA-like investment that our mayor's been advocating for years, and even goes back to some of the critical work in 2018 to really focus on kind of the shelter crisis and thinking about how we can expedite using city land to build shelters. So a lot of tremendous work in that front, and interim housing. Initially there was a goal of building about one bridge home site in every council district, so 15. We now have 27. 20 that we built during the course of the pandemic, and you all have been involved with that success as well. 10 tiny home villages over this course of the pandemic. That's over 3,000 beds just with those projects alone. In addition, Project Home Key has been a tremendous opportunity in partnership with the state. We're getting ready for the 2.0 announcement next week in partnership with the state and the governor's office. Those resources have been critical, and so we'll have about 15 projects in the pipeline that'll be permanent supportive housing ready, which is a lot of amazing work from our housing authority and the housing department to meet that moment. Project Room Key, master leasing, hotels to bring people indoors quickly during this pandemic who were very vulnerable. So a lot of amazing work and just initiatives, and it really comes down to, I think, just partnership, right, in this moment. Our nonprofit sector partners like yourselves, who have been tremendous in this time to really do this work, to be on the ground as our heroes and sheroes to continue this momentum. We know, interim housing, I think you said this, Ken, right? The street cannot be the waiting room for folks on their path to a permanent, stable opportunity. And so even with permanent supportive housing, you know, HHH got a lot, I think, unfair criticism for the speed and the cost, but you know, HHH is working. I mean, this year alone, we have 40 projects that are opening up, over 2,300 units.
Wow.
We have another 20 that are breaking ground, another 1,300 units. So between this year and next year, I mean, tremendous speed and pace. HHH is working. I feel like every week, you know, the mayor and I are also, you know, either attending a groundbreaking or ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
So a tremendous moment to create that pipeline and that transition for folks from interim to permanent.
And I think there's no doubt that the mayor's office, and the mayor in particular, as a leader, has stepped up. And I know, Ken, you've commented so many times on that moment where the mayor declared a shelter emergency.
Yeah, I think for nonprofit organizations and agencies, it was a game changer. You know, for him to declare a shelter emergency, which changed the landscape and the rules on how we can operate.
Yeah.
From the city's perspective, what happened when the mayor declared that shelter emergency?
Well, it really allowed us the flexibility to move and expedite and efficiently build interim housing and bridge shelter on city land. You know, and so with, you know, the Tiny Home Village project, a Bridge Home, which I just shared, you know, has been very impactful in bringing infrastructure. You know, that's about a 100-day process to bring that on.
That's incredibly quick.
Yeah, Bureau of Engineering have been tremendous partners in doing that, using plots of land that otherwise were going underutilized. Sometimes weird shapes where they would have just sat there building weeds, and being really creative of how we activate that space to create, you know, really spaces that are healing. And you know, while Italian home and their cabin communities are small, it's also a community, right? There's space that is really engaging, whether you're talking about access to showers and hygiene and food and meals and services. It's really how you activate that space with love and care, and I know that's a space where you all have been tremendously.
I think, you know, you mentioned some of the critical components, and that is that the city was able to utilize existing land to rapidly deploy an emergency response to the humanitarian crisis. The other thing is, I know for us as a provider, historically we could only open up sites that were in a C2 or CM commercial zone, and it expanded into manufacturing zones, M1 and 2. Historically, we could only, by right, open up and have 30 beds or less, unless we got a conditional use permit. And all of that has been changed. And so that's what, when I look at 2018 and I look at what Mayor Eric Garcetti did, I mean, I applaud and I celebrate, because it really changed the landscape. It changed the rules. It empowered us. It put the wind at our back. And oftentimes, you know, people might look at a charity like Hope of the Valley and you know, say good things about us, but what they don't realize is we could never have done what we have done without the city getting behind those efforts and creating opportunity for us. So that's why you'll hear, I know for us a lot, we talk about this public-private partnership, and we can't do it. We need each other. We need the government, and the government needs us, and we work together. And how do you see this symbiotic relationship playing out here in Los Angeles today?
Yeah, I mean, so critical. Right. I mean, I come from the nonprofit service provider world. I spent 20 years in that space from LA to the Bay and back. So really understanding how critical those partnerships are. You know, and when I was in the nonprofit sector and doing amazing work at a number of organizations, you know, I never felt like it was solely government's job to solve homelessness. Like, they play a critical role, all levels of government, local, state, federal, but it's all of our responsibilities, right? Every sector, the private sector, the academic sector, our activists, you know, government, nonprofit, really to step up and meet this moment, right? And so continue to challenge ourselves. What more can we do collaboratively? What bridges can we build to continue momentum in a good direction? And I think, you know, we're in this moment now with, you know, showing what's possible, right? When we have investment and engagement at all levels. And we have our partners that are willing to take those risks to step up and grow and do those things that are necessary to meet the moment. And what our role is, you know, as government, to support that, right? And foster those opportunities for more folks to come into the space and have an opportunity to engage and be a part of the work. So, you know, it's so critical. And I think we've had some great partnerships with yourself and other providers. You know, we're doing some things now too with like USC and street medicine for the second year now, and investing in that and really taking kind of this public health lens approach to outreach and engagement. The city's first ever unarmed response pilot. to respond to 911 calls that come in related to homelessness. So rather than send LAPD out there to respond to non-emergency calls, we have now teams of practitioners and outreach workers and behavioral health specialists. And this is we went from pilot to program last year to this year.
Wow.
But it's so critical in how we kind of rethink how we can really connect with our folks that are struggling in the streets, that need some sense of connection. Not just about the outreach, but the engagement, I would say, is even more critical. Anybody can do outreach. Engagement is key to building that trust and really being able to build a sense of community and connection, which you all have really laid a blueprint for how to do.
So, I think we can all agree that the mayor's office and that decision to declare a shelter emergency was the game-changing moment. We at Hope of the Valley are now at about 1,400 beds. We're looking to be well over 2,000 next year. We were serving about 250,000 meals. It's edging on about 1.5 million right now, and very soon it will surpass 2 million meals. The numbers and the scaling is incredible, but there's a lot of sobriety in this, because there's still thousands of people languishing on the streets. I know we've got our opinions at Hope of the Valley of the gaps, and by no means are we trying to point fingers or down anyone. I'd love to hear from the mayor's office, and maybe from you personally, as you look at this crisis with 70-odd thousand people across the county languishing in mental health distress, in medical distress on our streets. What are the gaps that you see, and what would you love to see if you could wave that magic wand to bring an end to this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we need to be honest about the gaps and the challenges and ways that we can improve and fill those gaps, right? And so, a few things that come to mind, I think, just thinking about this moment, we have, a tight rental market. And so as we think about transitioning people from interim to permanent, and now we've, had a great opportunity and support from the Biden administration with emergency housing vouchers. Housing authorities done a very timely job of issuing over 3,300 vouchers in a short period of time.
So great.
But now the work continues to find those units and get folks on that path. And so I think, that's a space where we're continuing to focus on a landlord engagement campaign that you'll see in the coming month. We're thinking about also, some resources that we've recently invested for case management and housing navigation. We've had conversations with your staff on the ground on visits, and how frustrating that has been in this kind of moment in market. And so that's an area where, continue to do that work to help folks, make that transition into a permanent unit. So there's one space there where, we need to continue to work, and we're doing some things now that hopefully will move the needle. I also think about, some of the challenges with folks that are higher acuity, right? And by higher acuity, mean, they may have mental health challenges or substance abuse challenges, and those are some serious layers. I mean, I've seen that in my work and my family. Like those are serious layers that need to be.
And that's particularly hard for the mayor's office, because the city doesn't have a department of mental health. They can call the mayor's office all day long. What are they going to do? Send LADWP out?
Yeah, I know.
I know there's been some suggestion that the city would be forming a mental health department, but is it clear that that is one of the gaps, that mental health response?
I think the public health dynamic, and yes, our county partners, I think have done a tremendous job investing in the services component. But we need more appropriate shelter type beds, right? Because at the end of the day, it's one thing to meet folks where they are, provide a service and assessment, but then where do they go, right? Because I think, boarding care facilities are critical, more, substance abuse detox facilities are critical. And so that's, part of the challenge sometimes, I think, in just trying to work with our county partners and making sure that we can have that infrastructure, right? And so I think, some critical conversations happening now that'll hopefully move in a great direction. But yes, we do not have a public health department, and so we do our best to at least provide an option, even if it's not the most appropriate option for that individual, and try to really work with our partners to kind of bring just comprehensive care. And things we're doing now, I highlighted the unarmed response pilot. They have behavioral health clinicians, our street medicine teams, working with great organizations like